With an update. It's the 23rd of May in Ukraine. Some big news. Obviously, Bakhmut. The Russians have seized control of Bakhmut as of yesterday. That seems to be confirmed now by a lot of reports on Telegram and coming out of some of the really good news sources about Ukraine. Still being denied now by Zelensky after originally seeming to confirm it while having a meeting with Joe Biden. Now playing weasel words around whether or not he's actually admitting that Bakhmut has been taken over by the Russians and by claiming that the Russians don't occupy Bakhmut. Anyhow, so that's one big thing that's happened. Another big piece of news is the attack overnight into Belgorod in Russia. We have the map here, Ukraine, and then Belgorod in Russia, with a battalion of Ukrainian forces. Russian separatists, the Ukrainians are terming them as, but taking in Western equipment and Ukrainian vehicles to fight in Belgorod. So this is an interesting development. It seems like it's a relatively small number of forces that have gone in. The Russians are claiming that they've pushed back most of the small area that the Ukrainian forces had originally claimed. This is ongoing at the moment, so by tomorrow there'll be more information on this. One other item, interesting news in the Ukraine war today is the announcement of F16s. The US is going to provide F16s, and while there has been some early discussion in the past few months that if this were to happen, this would take quite some time, wouldn't be ready until 2024, as seems to be the case with most of the major weapons system supplies, such as HIMARS and Patriot systems. Once it gets close to them being announced that they are going to be used, it seems as though they're already perhaps in country. So it looks as though it may be a case of there already being Ukrainian pilots being trained in the F-16s. There may be, the Ukrainian may be searching for other pilots, not necessarily Ukrainian Air Force pilots, possibly retired F-16 pilots. People have had experience with them before. But this is an interesting topic, as the F-16s themselves, an amazing piece of equipment, very capable fighter aircraft. However, in the Ukraine war, would be fighting in an environment which is foreign to them, unusual to them, and unusual in the sense that this would be an environment where the Americans don't hold air superiority over the battleground. As has been seen thus far, the Russian anti-aircraft defense systems seem to be holding up very well. There were some Ukrainian craft taken out last week. There was, yes, a day last week where there was, I think, a MiG-35 and another MiG fighter and two Mi-8 helicopters, Russian helicopters, taken out. This sounds now as though this may have been friendly fire from Russian anti-aircraft systems, not communicating properly and bringing down their own craft, and not actually Ukrainians taking these planes down. So information is still coming out on that. But it does seem that if the F-16s are released into the Ukraine conflict, that they will be tested, because I say it's a situation where the Americans don't have air supremacy already. One point that I heard Alexander Mercouris of the Duran speaking about this morning, an interesting topic, is that perhaps the West doesn't mind getting the F-16s into the fight. If they win and do great. If they don't, then perhaps that might be a sales tool for convincing European and Western nations that actually they need to be buying F-35s. If they can be demonstrated that the F-16s aren't a match for Russian anti-aircraft systems, then perhaps buying F-35s is what the European countries will be convinced to do. I think there's a change of guard with General Milley in the US being replaced by someone from the Air Force who apparently is a big supporter of the F-35 and would like to see the US Air Force retire even aircraft such as the Warthog, the A-10, and replace them with the F-35s. So if he's now taking some sort of level of command over what's happening in Ukraine, then, yeah, I mean, Alexander is pretty onto it, so it's very possible that that might be what's happening with the F-16.